Hello beautiful friends, I am here today with my first share for the month of October for the Cut to You design team. I am working on a Halloween layout. I think this is actually the first Halloween layout that I have ever completed. It's not been a big feature of my life or our lives up until recently, and I just love everything fun and spooky about Halloween, so it's something that we're trying to embrace a little bit more in our family. Last year we had a birthday party for my daughter on Halloween because her birthday is quite close, so I have some photos from that event to scrapbook or to document, and I'm starting off with one which is a photo of me having had my face painted at the party. I'm using the Happy Halloween cut file. This was a new release in September for Cut to You, and I'll leave a link for this down in my description box below. As you can see, I've cut it out from some black cardstock, and I used the Basil Licorice Twist heavyweight cardstock, so it's nice and thick and sturdy. I love using this particular cardstock for my cut files because it is really solid, but it takes a long time to cut. So it's not something, and it's quite expensive, so it's not something that I use a lot of, but this is the black cardstock that I have on hand, so that's what I used. I am also using this Prima 31 collection. This is a new release this year. It's designed by Frank Garcia, and as soon as I saw it, I knew that I had to have it. It's got some really beautiful pastel colors, some really cute, fun icons, and a real vintage feel to it, which is right up my alley. So off camera, I have already gone ahead and backed this cut file with some of the pattern papers from the 6x6 paper pad. I have also prepared my background already. I've got some white cardstock. I've matted it on one of the 12x12 pattern papers and added some stitching around the border. I've gathered a few little bits and pieces that I think I'm going to use, and that should be it. So let's hop on fast forward now and watch this one come together. Okay, so while I get started on creating just some added interest to my white background, I'm using a gold Liquitex acrylic ink just to do some splatters around the page. You will have noticed during my intro, you perhaps will have noticed that the timeline of my videos going up to my YouTube channel is a little bit out of sync. I've had a very busy few months and life got a little bit too crazy and a little bit too busy. And so while I've had all of these projects filmed and recorded, I just haven't had the time or really the energy or the motivation to sit down and edit them and do the voiceovers and get them up on my YouTube channel. So you will, over the next few weeks, maybe month to 6 weeks, see me catching up on some of my older projects and getting those videos up on YouTube along with the new projects that I have coming up as well. So you did see me do my splatters there at the start of the video. I've also added a double matte to the back of my photo. So the first one was just a plain white cardstock, which is something that I do with almost all of my photos, if not all of them. On all of my projects, I just like that definition, and I choose to use a white cardstock because I do like the added texture of having that additional layer. I've also added some black, or a darker black, it's a polka dot matte, a really thin matte to the back of the photo, and that was just using one of the pattern papers from the 6x6 paper pad. And while I have been talking you through all of that, you have seen me engaging in a very tedious and really silly thing. I really need to learn to do my distressing of my paper before I stitch things down, because once I have stitched the paper down, it is, as you just saw, that much harder to distress the edges. But I wanted those to be really rough and textural, so I've used my finger and my distressing tool, and I tried some scissors, but I got there in the end. So I've pushed back some of the sides just to give that really lots of visual interest. Apologies for the back of my head there. I was trying to get way over the top. This is some tulle that I have had in my stash for a little while. It's a really soft pink tulle, and it's got some pink and white polka dots, and it goes really well with the 31 collection that I'm using. And I wanted to lay this or scrunch this up across my page to sit behind the cut file and then also peek out behind it and just form a really nice textural base. So you saw me bring in my long arm stapler there. As I scrunched them up, I just added a staple to hold it all in place. Some of those staples you will actually see peeking through the cut file once the layout's finished, but it's not noticeable. It's certainly not noticeable enough for it to bother me. And that's saying something, because lots of things bother me in my finished scrapbook layouts. So I've added some foam to the back of that cut file. I adhered my photo down to the cut file before I placed everything down because I was working on the tulle. It makes it so much harder to tuck things in underneath the cut file because they get caught on the tulle and pull it up. So I stuck that main photo down, or adhered that main photo down where I wanted it to the cut file before I adhered the whole lot onto the background. And then this is a multi-photo layout. I don't do too many of these anymore. I need to start incorporating more of them, definitely. But I had a few little in-progress shots of my face getting painted by the lovely face painter that we had at the party. And so I've printed those out. I think they're about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches. Matted them onto some white cardstock, and then I'm also using that same black polka dot cardstock to mat them. So I have 3 of those little ones, and I am just going to place those in a couple of different spots around the cut file and around the photo. And I think, I'm not sure if I do that on camera or off camera, but I am going to adhere those down. Now I'm using the Helmar's 450 glue, which is a really nice strong adhesive. It's quite tacky and it's quick drying. So when I'm using anything super textural like tulle or fabric or anything that's not a flat anything that's not really a flat surface, I like to use that Helmar's 450 because it does seem to hold a lot better. The downside to it is I just have so much trouble getting it out of the bottle. I'm not sure if it's to do with the way that I'm storing it. Maybe I just have got unlucky, but I always find that I have to just about use 2 hands to squeeze it out of the bottle. But it's worth it because it does a really good job of adhering to those textural elements. So I am also using some foam adhesive, which you've seen me add behind some of the photos just to help give them a little bit of lift. And now that I'm coming in and doing my embellishing, I'm using some foam behind some of those embellishment pieces as well, just to bring them up off the page and add some dimension and visual interest, which is something that I talk a lot about in my projects. I'm not going to go too heavy with the embellishing because that cut file really is the standout feature of this layout, and I didn't want to draw too much attention away from it. So I've just pulled a few little bits and pieces from the ephemera pack, and I'm going to place those. I'm not really going with my usual rule of thirds. Not really thinking about any of the rules of design when I'm embellishing this one. I'm just placing things where I think they might work or they might look good, and I'm having a look at it as I go and just checking to make sure that everything's balanced and my eye's not drawn too heavily to one part of the page. My journaling I typed up on my typewriter, and I have cut down into strips, and I'm going to lay those down directly underneath the title, laying on top of the cobweb part of the cut file. And I think we're just about coming to the end. Actually, I know we're just about coming to the end. I've got that. I tried to get that other little candy corn piece in, but it didn't work. These butterflies, I'm not sure if I mentioned it in my intro, but I used one of the pattern papers and a stamp that I have, a butterfly stamp and matching die set. And I actually used a bright pink ink and then added some embossing powder on the top just to add a little bit of shine to them. And then cut them out with the coordinating dies, and now I am going to stick them around in a few different places around my layout. And the reason I wanted to bring this in is because there is those really bright pops of pink in the t-shirt that I'm wearing and also on my face painting, and I wanted to tie that in with the rest of the page. So once those butterflies are done, that's it. I think I've got some little Nuvo drops that I add off camera, but we've got some close-up photos coming right now. Down in my description box below, you'll find the link for this cut file along with all the links that you need for the Cut To You store. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.